Ladies, let's talk truth. When a man is truly interested in a woman, he doesn't just jump all in with blind emotion. Whether he's conscious of it or not, he tests her, not in a manipulative, deceptive way, but in a way that reveals her depth, her values, her emotional intelligence. Because for a man who's serious, it's not just about how she looks or how she makes him feel. It's about who she is when the mask comes off. One of the first tests is emotional stability. A man will observe how a woman responds when plans change, when communication slows, or when he's not as available. Is she secure within herself, or does she spiral into doubt and demand? He wants a partner, not a project. If she respects the space without losing her center, that tells him something powerful. Next comes boundaries. He might push a little, not maliciously, but just to see, will she stand firm in her standards? Will she say no when something doesn't sit right with her? He wants to know if she can protect her own peace, because that's the kind of woman who won't lose herself in a relationship. Sometimes he'll pull away, just slightly, to see if she panics, chases, or simply keeps living her life. A woman who remains calm, focused, and respectful during space shows she's emotionally grounded. That tells him she's not desperate, she's devoted to her own growth first. He'll also pay attention to how she handles conflict. Does she lash out, get defensive, or shut down? Or does she communicate with clarity, grace, and accountability? A real man knows that the woman he chooses must also be someone he can weather storms with. And if he's wise, he's watching how she treats the invisible people. Waiters, cashiers, strangers. Because true character shows not when she's being admired, but when no one's watching. Is she kind? Is she humble? That speaks louder than words. He tests her independence too. Does she have her own dreams, her own voice, her own identity? Or does she morph into what she thinks he wants? A man of value doesn't want to carry her life. He wants to add to it. He'll see how much she values herself, not by how loudly she proclaims her worth, but by the quiet confidence she walks in. Does she need constant reassurance to feel beautiful, or does she know who she is, even in silence? He might challenge her opinions not to diminish her, but to see if she'll shrink. He wants to know, can she disagree with strength? Can she hold her truth without needing to be right? Accountability matters too. A real man isn't looking for a woman who lets everything slide. He wants to be called higher, with love, not shame. When she holds him accountable with grace, it shows emotional maturity. He watches for loyalty, but not just during the good times. He's looking for someone consistent, someone whose words match her actions. Loyalty isn't about saying yes to everything. It's about being real even when it's hard. At the end of the day, men test not to play games, but to protect their heart. A man who is ready to build, to lead, to love deeply. He tests because he's choosing intentionally. So if you ever feel like you're being tested, don't panic, don't perform. Just stand in your truth, your grace, and your boundaries. Because the right man isn't looking for perfection. When a man is genuinely considering a woman as someone he could potentially build a future with, one of the first things he unconsciously, or sometimes consciously, looks for is emotional stability. He wants to know how she holds herself together when life doesn't go exactly her way. Why? Because in real relationships, things don't always go smoothly. Plans fall apart. Communication gets disrupted. Emotions get tested. So rather than just observing her in moments of happiness or passion, he watches how she behaves in discomfort, uncertainty, or emotional friction. This test doesn't always come with a warning. Sometimes he'll delay a response to a message, not to play games, but to observe if she immediately assumes the worst, lashes out, or creates drama in her mind. He's silently asking, can she hold space for uncertainty, or does she let anxiety take the wheel? He notices her reactions when she doesn't get her way. For example, if he has to cancel a date due to a work emergency, does she respond with understanding? Or does she jump straight into accusations, coldness, or passive-aggressiveness? Emotional maturity isn't about being emotionless. It's about being able to respond instead of react. A woman who can pause, breathe, and express herself clearly, even when disappointed, stands out immediately. Men pay attention to how a woman manages her inner world. Is she constantly seeking validation, needing reassurance every few hours to feel secure? Or does she have a rooted sense of self that allows her to function without clinging to constant emotional feedback? He may even gently bring up topics that might trigger her. Past relationships, fears, family tension, not to hurt her, but to see if she processes pain or projects it. He's looking to see if she has done her inner work. Because the truth is, no matter how attractive she is, if a man senses chaos, insecurity, or volatility beneath the surface, he steps back, not because he's heartless, but because he's careful. He knows that beauty fades, but emotional energy sticks. A woman who is emotionally grounded brings calm, clarity, and trust into his life. That's what he's really testing for. And he knows, if a woman can't regulate her emotions when things are small, she will collapse when life gets heavy. So he pays attention closely. One of the deepest ways a man tests a woman, especially when he's thinking long-term, is by observing how she handles boundaries, not just his, but more importantly, her own. A woman's ability to establish, protect, and honor her boundaries tells a man everything he needs to know about herself, worth, and emotional maturity. See, when a man is drawn to a woman, he's not just noticing how kind or beautiful she is. He's studying whether she knows what she stands for. Is she someone who can say no without guilt? Can she walk away from a situation that doesn't serve her values, even when it's tempting to stay? Those aren't just traits. They are signals of a woman who has done the work, a woman who won't trade her dignity for temporary affection. Sometimes the boundary tests are subtle. He may flirt in a slightly suggestive way early on to see if she'll laugh it off, push back, or go along with it too soon. Not because he's only after one thing, but because he wants to know if she knows how to pace intimacy. He wants to know, does she value her space, or is she quick to bend her standards to keep his attention? Other times he might be inconsistent with communication. Not to manipulate, but to observe. Does she call him out directly and respectfully? Or does she allow disrespect to slide, hoping that silence will keep the peace? A woman who lets small things go unchecked might think she's being understanding, but to a man who's watching, it can look like she doesn't have standard. And the truth is, how a woman trains a man in the beginning sets the tone for everything that follows. He also watches how she responds when he sets his own boundaries. For example, if he says he needs time to focus on work or personal growth, does she honor that space, or does she guilt trip, over-communicate, or push for constant closeness? Respecting a man's boundaries isn't about shrinking or staying silent. It's about showing that you can love and connect without invading or controlling. It's in these moments, when boundaries are challenged or held, that a man decides whether he can trust her with his vulnerability, his ambition, and his peace. Because a woman who respects herself and others is a woman he can build with. She's not looking to possess him. She's looking to partner with him. A man will test this in small ways, sometimes unconsciously, because he wants to know, is this someone who knows how to say no, how to stand up, how to speak up, even if it risks losing him, because a woman who can lose a man rather than lose herself. That's the one who earns his deepest respect. One of the most common and misunderstood tests a man will use, consciously or unconsciously, is pulling away just enough to observe how a woman responds. This isn't always a game or a manipulation. In many cases, it's an instinctive behavior rooted in a desire to understand the emotional security of the woman he's investing in. He wants to know, is her love rooted in wholeness or in fear? When a man slightly withdraws, whether it's taking longer to reply to a message, creating physical distance, or becoming a little less available, he's watching her closely, not her reaction in words, but her energy. Does she become anxious? Does she chase him? Does she suddenly shift into overdrive, sending more texts, asking questions, spiraling into assumptions? Or does she remain calm, composed, and rooted in her own center? A woman who instantly becomes clingy at the slightest space sends a very clear message. I don't feel safe within myself. And for a man, especially one who values peace and emotional maturity, that's a red flag. He's not testing her just to see if she'll leave or beg. He's trying to discern if her emotional regulation is dependent on constant contact. Because the truth is, in a real relationship, there will be seasons of space, work stress, life transitions, family demands. And a man needs to know, can she hold steady even when I can't be hyper, present? Clinginess isn't always loud. Sometimes it's subtle, passive, aggressive comments, guilt-laced messages, or emotional withdrawal disguised as silence. These are signs that a woman is letting fear drive the connection instead of trust. And fear-based connections don't last. A man will step back, even briefly, just to see what surfaces when her need for control is challenged. On the other hand, a secure woman doesn't panic. She might notice the shift, but she doesn't immediately question her worth or chase validation. She continues living. She gives space without bitterness. And when communication resumes, she's not cold or punishing. She's neutral, open, and aware. Her ability to remain self-assured in those moments tells a man everything. It says, I enjoy your presence, but I am not addicted to it. I love connection, but I don't fear separation. I care for you, but I won't abandon myself to hold you. That kind of presence is rare, it's healing. So, when a man pulls away just a little, it's not always because he's losing interest. Sometimes it's because he wants to see if she can hold her own emotional ground without needing to be constantly held. One of the most telling moments in any relationship isn't when things are going well. It's when things go wrong. That's when the mask slips, the nerves surface, and the real emotional character of a person comes forward. For a man who is truly looking to commit, who's evaluating whether a woman can be his teammate for life, one of the most revealing tests he'll use is watching how she reacts under pressure or during conflict. Conflict is inevitable. Pressure is unavoidable. It could be a disagreement, a difference in values, a misunderstanding, or even a bad day that spills into the relationship. When these moments arise, a man is silently asking himself, can I trust her when we don't see eye to eye? Can we fight without breaking each other? Does she raise her voice, shut down, get defensive, or turn passive, aggressive? Does she resort to blame, character assassination, or emotional manipulation to win the argument? Or does she stay present and try to resolve, not just react? These are critical moments because they show emotional discipline. He's looking for a woman who can stay grounded in her emotions, even when she's angry, hurt, or confused. A woman who knows how to communicate clearly, not destructively. That doesn't mean she suppresses her feelings or avoids hard conversations. It means she brings her emotions to the table with respect, not as weapons. Men pay close attention in these moments. Why? Because how she handles small issues today will reflect how she handles bigger storms later. Stress with family, money issues, life setbacks, parenting disagreements. He wants to know, is this woman going to attack me, withdraw from me, or stand beside me when things get heavy? He's also noticing whether she fights to understand or to dominate. Is her goal to resolve the issue, or is her pride driving the conversation? Can she apologize when she's wrong? Does she make space for his point of view even if she disagrees? Or does she need to be right at all costs? Even more importantly, he's looking for emotional safety. Can he bring up something vulnerable without it being thrown back at him in the next argument? Can he express his truth without being mocked, dismissed, or shamed? These questions matter because men, especially emotionally aware men, do not open up easily. They open up to women who make them feel safe, not just loved. Conflict is a mirror. It reveals the emotional wiring of the person in front of you. And for a man who's thinking long term, how a woman moves through conflict tells him whether she's just a good time, or someone who can be his safe place through time. One of the most revealing and quietly powerful tests a man uses when evaluating a woman he's serious about is observing how she treats people who have nothing to give her. The way a woman behaves with those who hold no influence, no status, no benefit to her. That's where her true character lies. It's easy to be kind when the spotlight is on. It's easy to smile and be graceful with people you admire, people you want something from, or people you want to impress. But when it comes to those who are invisible, in society, waiters, cleaners, drivers, retail workers, service staff, even strangers on the street, that's where the real personality shows, and a man who is paying attention will notice everything. He watches how she responds when her coffee order is wrong. Does she correct it with kindness or belittle the person behind the counter? He notices if she says thank you when someone holds the door open. He picks up on whether she acknowledges the janitor walking by, or if she acts like they are not even there. These seem like small things, but to a man with substance, they're not small at all. Because how she treats people who can't elevate her, entertain her, or offer her attention, that tells him who she really is when ego isn't driving her actions. This test goes even deeper. He observes how she speaks about others when they're not around. Is she constantly gossiping, judging, or criticizing other women? Is her language filled with superiority and negativity? Or does she speak with emotional intelligence, giving others the benefit of the doubt and choosing compassion over condemnation? A man who's thinking long term is not just looking for a beautiful face or an exciting partner. He's asking himself, can I trust this woman to raise my children? Will she model grace when no one is watching? Will she be kind to my family, respectful to people in my life, and gentle with those who can't do anything for her? He also notices whether she's transactional with her kindness. Does she only act sweet when she's getting something in return? Or is she generous simply because that's who she is? True kindness is not a performance. It's a reflex. And a woman who treats others with warmth, respect, and dignity, regardless of their position, sends a very loud, unspoken message. I operate from integrity, not ego. That's the kind of woman a man can trust in rooms he's not in. That's the kind of woman who doesn't need to be managed or controlled, because her heart is led by values, not by appearances. So when he takes her to dinner, introduces her to his colleagues, or simply walks beside her in everyday life, he's watching. Is she a woman who makes the room warmer, not colder? Is she graceful not just when it benefits her, but when no one is looking? Because ultimately, it's not just how she treats him that matters, it's how she treats everyone that tells him who she truly is. One of the most important things a man pays attention to, especially if he's thinking long term, is whether the woman he's interested in has her own life. Not just a busy schedule, but a real sense of identity, a purpose, a vision for herself that doesn't depend on being in a relationship. Because here's what most emotionally mature men understand: neediness is not the same as love. So when a man begins to connect with a woman on a deeper level, he's watching to see, does she orbit around her own life, or is she quick to revolve around mine? That's why many men will subtly test for independence. He'll pay attention to her lifestyle. Does she cancel plans for him at the drop of a hat? Does she put her passions, her career, her routines on hold just to be available? Or does she continue to nourish the things that matter to her, even while getting to know him? He may not say it out loud, but he's evaluating whether she brings a full life to the table, not just a romantic void waiting to be filled. Men respect women who know how to be fulfilled on their own. It's not about being distant or hyper, independent to prove a point. It's about being complete, not clingy. He may even step back for a moment just to observe how she uses her time. Does she fall into silence and wait around, or does she stay lit up by her passions, friendships, health, and goals? A man doesn't want to feel like the center of a woman's universe from day one. That kind of pressure doesn't feel romantic. It feels unsustainable. Because when someone gives up everything for a relationship, they eventually expect the other person to become everything to make up for it. That creates emotional imbalance. A man wants to see that a woman has structure to her life that doesn't crumble when he enters, that she still makes time for her friends, that she prioritizes her mental and physical health, that she's invested in something bigger than the relationship itself. Whether it's her career, creativity, faith, or personal development, he's not just impressed by it, he's drawn to it. Because it shows she's not looking to be rescued. She's looking to build something with someone who respects her path. He might ask questions like, what's something you're working on right now? What do you love doing when you're not working? What are your goals this year? And he's not just making conversation, he's listening. Is she passionate? Is she excited about her life? Or does it sound like she's waiting for a man to give it meaning? Men test independence not to create distance, but to measure emotional balance. He wants to feel chosen, not needed, desired, not depended on. Because when a woman has her own life, she doesn't try to control his. She inspires him to expand it. So if she has her own plans, keeps pursuing her goals, and shows that she's not going to lose herself just because she's in love that tells him, this woman is grounded. She's not trying to become my world. She's inviting me into hers. When a man is genuinely drawn to a woman, especially one he's considering seriously, he will, intentionally or unintentionally, challenge her sense of self. Not to disrespect her, but to understand how deeply she knows who she is. One of the ways this shows up is by questioning her standards, values, or opinion. Because what he's really testing is, does she stand in her truth, or does she shift to stay liked? At some point in getting to know a woman, a man will say or do something that doesn't quite align with her values. It might be subtle, A joke that crosses a line, a comment that undermines her opinion, or a situation where she has to decide between speaking up or staying quiet to avoid tension. And in that moment, he's watching very closely, not for drama, but for depth. Does she shrink back and laugh it off, even when something doesn't sit right? Does she nod in agreement with views she clearly doesn't share, just to keep the peace? Or does she pause, ground herself, and express her truth calmly and clearly? A man who is emotionally grounded doesn't want a woman who agrees with everything he says. That's not partnership, that's performance. He's attracted to a woman who can disagree with dignity, who can say, "I see it differently," without turning the moment into a war. A woman who doesn't crumble under the discomfort of holding her own. And he'll push lightly to see if her boundaries are flexible or firm, not to manipulate, but to observe. For example, he might suggest something that goes against what she previously said she wouldn't tolerate. Showing up late, canceling last minute, teasing her about something sensitive. If she lets it slide, pretending it didn't bother her, it sends a signal. She's afraid of being too much. But when a woman honors her own boundaries, speaks up without rage or apology, and holds her values with grace, she communicates something powerful without even realizing it. I know who I am, and I don't abandon myself to earn affection. That kind of strength is magnetic. Because real men who are grounded in purpose and growth, aren't looking for silent compliance. They're looking for clarity. They want to know, can she hold a viewpoint without attacking mine? Can she disagree and still stay connected? Can she respect me without betraying herself? When a woman can do that, when she remains firm without being harsh, expressive without being explosive, she proves that her self-worth isn't on trial in the relationship. She's not looking to be chosen by changing who she is. She's inviting him to rise into a connection that respects both identities. And that is where real connection begins, not in mutual comfort, but in mutual truth. One of the most powerful and often underestimated ways a man evaluates a woman he's serious about is by paying attention to how she responds when he falls short. Because eventually he will. Whether it's missing a text, making a mistake, being insensitive in the moment, or showing up in a way that doesn't align with her expectations, there comes a point where the honeymoon energy fades, and real relationship dynamics begin to surface. And when that happens, he's watching one thing: does she hold him accountable? But with grace. Accountability is not about control. It's not about nagging, yelling, or tearing someone down to make a point. It's about upholding standards, not in a way that shames, but in a way that reflects self-respect. A mature man wants a woman who will challenge him when needed, but without trying to dominate, belittle, or emotionally punish him in the process. He doesn't want to feel like he's walking on eggshells, constantly fearing criticism or correction. But he also doesn't want to be with someone who tolerates everything in silence just to keep the peace. So he watches how she communicates when something isn't right. Does she ignore it and pretend it's fine, secretly building resentment, or does she explode and use anger as her only language of truth? Neither is attractive. Neither is sustainable, but a woman who knows how to speak truth without cruelty, that woman stands out. When she can say, "That didn't feel good to me," or "I don't accept that behavior," with calm certainty instead of emotional chaos, she sends a message that she's in control of herself, not trying to control him. She's not trying to parent him, but she's also not afraid to tell him when he's out of alignment. That balance is rare. That balance is what builds respect. And here's the thing: real men want to be held accountable. A man with purpose, with depth, with emotional maturity. He's not afraid of correction. In fact, he craves it from someone he respects, but he won't allow it from someone who disrespects him in the process. He's listening not just to what she says, but how she says it. Is her tone laced with contempt or disappointment? Does she speak down to him, or does she speak with him? He's also paying attention to timing. Does she bring up important issues when emotions are calm, or does she wait until a fight to unleash everything? Accountability isn't effective when it comes from repressed frustration. It's powerful when it's delivered with emotional maturity and relational awareness. A woman who can hold space for correction without trying to punish, who can lovingly say, "I know you can do better," instead of "you always mess this up," is a woman who shows him she's not against him. She's with him even when she challenges him. That's not just attractive, that's transformational. Because to a man who's truly seeking growth, that kind of accountability doesn't push him away. It pulls him forward. When a man is seriously considering a woman for a meaningful relationship, loyalty becomes one of the most critical things he silently observes. But here's the truth most people miss. Men don't test loyalty by expecting blind obedience, submission, or silent agreement. They test it through consistency, emotional, behavioral, and energetic. They want to know, is she steady when things get hard? Is her connection genuine or conditional? A man might observe how she responds when he's not at his best, when he's tired, discouraged, distracted, or not giving her 100%. Does she stay emotionally present, or does she pull away? Is her affection and support something he can rely on, or does it disappear the moment he falls short of her expectations? These are subtle tests, but they are revealing. Because loyalty in a mature relationship isn't about never leaving the person. It's about not abandoning the connection every time it gets uncomfortable. He's paying attention to whether her words match her actions. If she says she's supportive, does she actually show up during his difficult moments? If she says she believes in him, does she speak to him like a man with purpose, or like someone she secretly doubts? A loyal woman doesn't just show up when he's winning. She's there when he's building, when he's growing, and even when he's struggling. Not with enabling silence, but with truth, compassion, and belief in his potential. Loyalty also shows up in the way she speaks about him behind his back. He listens closely when mutual friends repeat things or when her stories reflect conversations they've had. Is she someone who protects his reputation even when he's not around to hear it? Is she respectful when speaking about him in public, even after a disagreement? That kind of consistency is rare, and it matters because it tells him this woman doesn't just perform love, she lives it. He might also test how she navigates male attention. Is she easily distracted by flattery, validation, or temporary praise from other men? Or does she carry herself with quiet loyalty, even when he's not watching? Loyalty isn't about being locked in a cage, it's about choosing integrity when no one's holding you to it. But again, this test has nothing to do with blind obedience or submissive behavior. A loyal woman isn't afraid to disagree, set boundaries, or walk away from disrespect. Her loyalty isn't to the image of the relationship, it's to the truth of it. She stays when it's real. She speaks when it's hard. She fights for the connection, not just with emotion, but with action. And what makes her loyalty powerful is that it isn't rooted in fear or dependency. It's not, I stay because I can't be without you. It's, I stay because I believe in who we are and I'm invested in what we're building. She doesn't abandon herself to be loyal to him. She brings her whole self into the relationship and expects him to meet her there. That's what makes her loyalty trustworthy. It's a conscious choice, not a survival mechanism. When a man sees that a woman is consistent not only when things are sweet, but when things are uncertain. When she shows up with the same energy on day 100 as she did on day 1, when her loyalty is backed by emotional strength, not emotional dependence, that's when he knows she's not just loyal to him. She's loyal to the connection. And to a man who's ready to build something real, that kind of loyalty isn't just rare, it's irreplaceable. Beyond all the subtle tests, a delayed response, a disagreement, a challenge to her boundaries or opinions, there is one deeper reason a man tests a woman he's genuinely considering. He wants to know if she is emotionally safe to give his heart to. A man who's emotionally aware, who's been through heartbreak, betrayal, or chaos in past relationships, is no longer seduced by surface level attraction or short-term chemistry. He's searching for something real, something rooted, something he can trust. And that's not something he finds in her appearance. It's something he finds in her energy. When a man is seriously evaluating a woman for partnership, what he's truly asking beneath all the surface behavior is she grounded enough to handle the weight of love? Is she real when no one's watching? Does she feel safe to open up to lean on, to grow beside? Because emotional safety is everything to a man who's done pretending. He's not just looking for someone to laugh with. He's looking for someone he can cry in front of. That's why he pays such close attention to the little things. The tone of her voice when she's frustrated, the way she reacts when she's triggered, the way she carries herself in silence, because those moments reveal what's underneath the image. He's looking beyond the charm, the conversation, the compatibility. He wants to see what lies behind the curtain. Can she hold space without judgment? Can she witness his vulnerability without turning it into weakness? Can she disagree without disconnecting? A man tests a woman by being less than perfect on purpose. Not to play games, but to reveal what kind of love she offers when he's not performing. Because anyone can show affection when the mood is light, when everything's going right. But the real question is, how does she show up when things get uncomfortable? Does she fight fair? Does she stay emotionally present? Or does she punish, withdraw, or try to control? He also tests for authenticity. Does she speak her truth? Or does she say what she thinks he wants to hear? Is she emotionally in tune or emotionally reactive? He's not looking for perfection. He's looking for emotional reality. He wants to see the unfiltered version of her, the one who exists when she's tired, disappointed, insecure, or triggered, because he knows that version of her is the one he'll be building a life with, not the polished version he sees at dinner. He wants to know if she's grounded in herself, not swayed by external opinions, not constantly seeking approval. A woman who is at peace with herself becomes peace to the man she chooses. And a man who has lived through emotional instability in past relationships will not compromise that again. He'll test not to manipulate, but to protect his future. He wants to see if she creates emotional safety without needing control. If she invites vulnerability without forcing it. If she stays calm under pressure and firm in her values. These things matter, not just for the romance, but for the foundation of the relationship. Because what every man ultimately longs to find in the woman he chooses isn't just excitement, attraction, or support. What he's truly testing for is this: can I finally exhale here? Can I be fully seen and still fully accepted? Can I be safe here? Emotionally, spiritually, and deeply? Because when a woman offers that kind of space, not through perfection, but through presence, that's when he knows. So if you ever feel like a man is testing you, know this. He's not looking for a woman who pleases him at every turn. He's not waiting for perfection, performance, or constant agreement. He's observing something far deeper. He wants to know, can she be still when things get loud? Can she stay true to herself when it would be easier to bend? Can she love without losing herself, and let him in without losing her power? Because a man who's serious doesn't test a woman to hurt her. He tests to see if loving her will heal him, and the woman who passes that test. She doesn't chase, she doesn't shrink, she doesn't try to prove her worth. She just stands firm, real, rooted, radiant in her truth, and in that quiet strength, he finds every answer he was looking for.